Ms. Karrington, do you recognize this document?
I do.
What is it?
This is the real estate purchase contract, commonly known as a REPC, that Kouri Richins Realty submitted as her offer to buy the property in December of 2021.
Ms. Karrington, what information does this provide?
So this tells us in the far upper corner, this is Sierra, and that's the bait stamp that identifies that this came from Sierra West Capital, Matt Strong being the primary lender. It gives, and then if you go first line kind of over on the left, 2/23/2021 is the date. Kouri Richins Realty is the buyer. Douglas Roy Lance is the seller. And then a couple lines down on the right says the earnest money deposit of $50,000. And then as you go down, it gives the street address is 106 North Legacy. That's why I call it Legacy Way. It's in Midway. That's why people call it the Midway Mansion. And then the parcel number, et cetera.
Then it says C addendum. We'll get to that one in a minute. But Scott, if you can scroll down. What information does the purchase price paragraph provide?
So it tells us what the agreed purchase, well, the offered purchase price is $2.9 million for this property. And then the accounting on the left shows that there's a $50,000 deposit. And then the balance will be paid at settlement, and then the purchase price there. And then I know that this is accepted because it's got initials on both and the dates on both, the buyer and seller.
Scott, can you just scroll down all the way through the next page? Ms. Karrington, what information does this provide?
So this gives a chronology of different steps that need to be taken. It's very typical in every transaction, most transactions. Sellers have a duty to disclose any of the warts and problems with the house. Those are due by January 7th of 22. Due diligence means that's the opportunity for the seller, that's an opportunity for the potential buyer to do any homework, anything that they need to do as far as due diligence before they sign. That's due February 4th. Financing and appraisals, that's also for the buyer to arrange financing, funding, do any appraisals that they want to do, and they have until January 7th to do that. And the settlement deadline, that means this deal has to close by March 4th of 2022.
Does that March 4th date hold any significance in this case?
Yes, it does.
What's that?
That's the day that this property deal closed and Kouri Richins purchased this house.
Did she purchase it on March 4th or March 5th?
I'm sorry, March 5th. March 4th is the date that Eric Richins died.
Thank you. And this is the addendum, am I right, that discloses all the warts and problems?
Yes.
I've circled a few of the paragraphs on that disclosure, that addendum. Can you please read those paragraphs aloud to the jury?
Okay. Bear with me. This is paragraph 2. Buyer is to acknowledge and affirm and agrees that these parcels, parcel 1, parcel 2, are sold as is. Buyer acknowledges, affirms, and agrees that both building structures have extensive vandalism, theft, as well as flooring and other structural concerns that may need or will require replacement or repair. Due to delays in construction and the permitting/approval process, the structures have been idle, exposed to the elements, and are not habitable, and are also suitable in many ways for continued construction. Damage has occurred because of the idle status of the projects. Buyer affirms buyer's intent in moving forward with the building project or abandon the project altogether based on buyer's own investigation of said structures in their state of idleness, disrepair, unfinished, and uninhabitable quality. Additionally, animals may have taken up residence in the ventilation systems for which there may be additional damage. Buyer acknowledges and affirms that buyer accepts the property in its unfinished, disassembled, unrepaired, damaged state and agrees to confirm through buyer's own due diligence which repairs and remediation efforts are necessary. Buyer acknowledges and affirms buyer's own actual or potential costs of repair, remediation, demolition, remodel, restart, reconstruction, and/or completion in moving forward with the building projects. Buyer agrees to purchase and accept the parcels, buildings, structures, and all aspects of the purchase of said parcels on an as-is basis and waives and releases any and all claims against seller or any deficiency, unexpected outcome, or unknown condition, cost, delay, failure, or liability. Paragraph 3. Buyer acknowledges, understands, and affirms that sale of said property is sold without all or necessary or desired permits, certificates, or allowances to build or complete the building process from Wasatch County or other governmental agencies. And buyer is and buyer is to be solely responsible for obtaining any required building permits from Wasatch County or any other necessary government entity. Buyer acknowledges, understands, and affirms that seller's building process was halted by the governmental permitting or allowance process, and as such, buyer intends to purchase these parcels as is with full understanding that buyer may also face challenges and costs in obtaining necessary or desired permitting allowances to build, rebuild, or complete the building and occupancy process. Buyer acknowledges, understands, and affirms that the structures do not have certificates of occupancy, necessary approvals through all required inspections, and other indicators of structural habitability. Paragraph 4. Buyer acknowledges that seller has been working with the Army Corps of Engineers over a lengthy period of time and that this entity is currently requiring additional wetlands evaluation of various materials, including water, environmental, etc. The Army Corps of Engineers may require other tests, requirements, and certifications, etc., that are to be completed to their satisfaction. Buyer acknowledges, understands, and affirms that the Army Corps is an independent government entity separate of Wasatch County, and that the Army Corps may require its own permitting, which Wasatch County may also require in order to obtain building permits. Buyer acknowledges, understands, and affirms that the Army Corps of Engineers does not monitor or collaborate with Wasatch County in any way. Wasatch County may or may not issue building permits independent of the Army Corps of Engineers. Buyer acknowledges, understands, and affirms that buyer, not seller, is responsible for moving forward with the Army Corps of Engineers and all other governmental organizations that may have oversight or control of the parcels and building projects and occupancy certification processes. Buyer acknowledges, understands, and affirms that the process of moving forward could take considerable time, present costs, delays, hardships, and burdens to buyer. Buyer acknowledges, understands, and affirms that buyer does not require any contribution from or assistance of seller with regard to obtaining all necessary permits, certificates, allowances, or approvals to restart the building process or complete said process and obtain all necessary inspections, approvals, certificates, permits, or allowances. Paragraph 5. Buyer acknowledges, understands, and affirms that the parcels have sewer rights, but that the sewer is not yet hooked up, is below grade, and will have to be pumped. Buyer acknowledges, understands, and affirms all necessary steps to obtain sewer function is the responsibility of the buyer and may be required to be on site on the subject parcels. Paragraph 6. Buyer acknowledges, understands, and affirms that additional or dedicated open space, i.e. wetlands, or other required remediation or mitigation may or will be required by the Army Corps of Engineers, and that to achieve mitigation or remediation, additional properties may be required for such. Thus, a potential off-site property may be obtained by the buyer. And if not on an additional off-site property, then remediation or mitigation may or will be on-site the subject parcels. There is a mitigation process that will need to be coordinated with the Army Corps of Engineers. Buyer acknowledges, understands, and affirms that there may or will be costs related to preparing lands to offset any disturbed wetlands. An outside consultant with BioWest has collected data and submitted data and recommendations to the Army Corps of Engineers. The Army Corps of Engineers still need to make its final decisions and will determine a mitigation plan with permits in cooperation with buyer. Paragraph 12. Buyer acknowledges, understands, and affirms that the Army Corps of Engineers may or will require further evaluation and study of wetlands underneath mounds of fill soil on the parcels. So seller will provide access to buyer's consultants or any other third parties related to studying groundwater or soils for the Army Corps of Engineers.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Karrington, in your experience reviewing REPCs, have you ever reviewed a REPC like that?
No.
Ms. Karrington, what information does this present? And if it's easier to step down, please do it. I don't know what's easiest.
It might be, since I don't have a... Okay, this is not actually as complicated as it appears. So this is the property address here, the buyer, the seller, and the lender is Sierra West Capital. So that's the Sierra West Matt Strong stuff. So then over here shows the settlement date and the disbursement date as March 4th of 22. And then this is the internal file number at the title company. This shows the sale price. This is the buyer's version. There is a seller's version, but this is the buyer's version. This is the sale price of the property at $2.9 million. And then here shows 2 of the 4 loans on this property. So here's the original loan from Sierra West to this $2,624,850. There's another lender from the Burns, and that loan is $420,000. These are some prorations. This section here, are you all right if I keep going?
Please, what's that section there?
This section, these are the fees associated with these loans. So the first position lender is Sierra West Capital, this $2.6 million loan. They charged $124,850 at the outset just for the loan. And then on top of that, it accrues interest going forward. It's a 6-month balloon. So this being March 4th of 22, she has to pay that off by September 4th of 2022. The next two, the $150 and the $20,000 relate to this loan, the $420,000 by the Burns. And then Scott, could you please scroll down? Thank you. That's great. So then here, these are the title insurance costs that are paid to GT Title Services, who's the title company in this transaction. So these are the different costs associated with that. So the first one, the lender's coverage premium, that's for the first position, the Sierra West one. Second position is the Burns, the $420,000 one. The third position loan is going to be this. For some reason, this is down here. I don't know why. But this third position lender funds is $150,000. That's an aggregation of a bunch of people who got together and they pooled their resources to loan $150,000 on this deal. And here is the buyer's portion of the real estate commissions, the 2% at $58,000. The other side paid $1,000 per their agreement, and then some recording fees. On top of this, there's one more loan from David Cockerhands that came in before this. He gave her the money for the earnest money. So did Matt Strong. So they both gave her the $50,000 for the earnest money. But later, the fourth position lender of $67,000 recorded his deed. I don't understand why it's not incorporated here, but it's not. But it is still attached and recorded on the property. So this tells us that all in all, there needs to be $3,201,230 that the buyer needs to come up with. And as I said, there's also that other $67,000. So she borrowed $3,259,000 against this property to buy it for $2.9 million. And then there was a little overage, and so this $87,240 came back to her, and we can see that go back to her bank account, and that hits her bank account.
So does this show that she borrowed $3.2 million from other people to close on a $2.9 million house, and at closing she walked away with $80,000?
$87,000, yes.
On the day that the Midway Mansion closed, how much was it worth?
$2.9 million, because that's what she paid for it. That was the agreed price on that for that transaction.
Is the real estate market like other markets in that the value of something, whether it's gold, oil, real estate, the true value on any given day is what a willing buyer and willing seller agree to?
Yes, and so in addition to the fact that that's what the market dictates, the IRS rules also say that a transaction is valued between a willing seller and a willing buyer, and industries function like that all the time. Business valuation, a forensic accountant who conducts a business valuation of a business will use that same concept.
Did you use that same concept in valuing all the properties involved in this case?
I did, because that's what she paid for them.
Am I right? Is this the loan agreement between Richins Realty and Sierra West for the Midway Mansion?
It is.
And Sierra West was the biggest lender at $2.6 million.
That's right, yes.
And is this part of what is, are we looking at what is known generally as a closing packet?
Yes, that would be consistent, yes.
These are the closing documents on the Midway Mansion, at least the closing documents for the largest funder on the Midway Mansion.
That's right, yes.
And is this the signature page?
Yes, it is.
And is that signature notarized on the 5th of March?
Yes, that's correct.
Scott, can you go to page 21, please? Is this another different signature page?
Yes, this one is basically acknowledging that the company that's buying this authorizes Kouri Richins to act on its behalf.
Is this yet another signature page in the closing documents?
Yes.
Can you go to 32, Scott? I'm sorry, let's just go to 32. 32. Is that yet another signature page in the closing documents?
Yes.
And 33, Scott? Karrington, is that yet another notarized signature page in the closing documents?
It is.
Thanks, Scott. Ms. Karrington, based on your analysis, did Ms. Richins have the ability to service the $3.2 million in debt when it came due in 6 months from closing?
She did not.
Ms. Karrington, based on your financial analysis, did Kouri Richins either have or have access to $3 million to renovate the Midway Mansion?
Objection, Your Honor. That's not consistent with what he just admitted.
It's a different question. Can you please restate it? Make sure we're listening to the question that he asked. If you'd say it again.
Ms. Karrington, based upon your financial analysis, did Ms. Richins have or have access to $3 million for renovations of the Midway Mansion?
Not that I,
Hold on. What was your objection?
Same objection, Your Honor. He's misstating what's in front of him as far as the evidence.
His question does not relate to this. Any other objections?
No, sir.
Overruled. Go ahead.
Not that I am aware of.
Thanks, Scott. Ms. Karrington, did you investigate or try to trace any money flowing to the Midway Mansion project once Kouri Richins closed on it?
I did look, yes.
Did you find any money flowing to that project?
I did not find any money flowing to that project. There's one that is a maybe,
Okay.
but no, nothing significant.
What's the maybe?
It's in the neighborhood of about $3,000, I think. It's in that, the reason it's a maybe, is that your question? The reason it's a maybe is it's during that time frame, and it's to an entity that, and I'm sorry, I really can't remember which entity, but there's one that I thought might relate to this project, looking for, what she usually does when she acquires a project, she moves forward. And so I'm thinking she probably does the same thing here. There's one that I recall fits that category, but it's minimal.
So at most, she, as best you can tell, invested maybe $3,000 into the Midway Mansion.
That's correct.
Did you investigate whether Kouri Richins tried to sell the Midway Mansion?
Yes.
Did she?
Yes, she did.
When?
She listed the property on March 12th of 2022, so the week following her acquisition of it.
That's also a week and a day following Eric Richins' death, right?
That's true.
Did Kouri Richins ever sell the property?
She did not.
What ultimately happened to the property?
After 12 offers that were made and canceled for one reason or another, actually, let me restate that, please. After, I believe there are 7 or 8 that were offered before her note was due. And then after that, she continued to try to sell it unsuccessfully. And at some point, the lender, Matt Strong, foreclosed or recorded a notion. He recorded a document, notice of default and election to sell. So basically started the foreclosure process.
And did the 12 failed contracts all fail during the diligence period?
Yes, they did.
In the months leading up to Eric Richins' death, what categories of assets did Kouri Richins have?
Categories of assets that Kouri Richins had. She had, she owned several properties. So that's one class of assets. She had financial accounts, and those were various balances.
On March the 5th, 2022, immediately after closing on the Midway Mansion, what was the value of Kouri Richins' assets?
Including the new property, was about 6.3 or 6.4 million.
In the months leading up to Eric Richins' death, what categories of liabilities did Kouri Richins have?
So liabilities are things that she owes. So she had a loan on the properties, each of the properties that she owned, and each of those was more than the property was worth. She also had all those payday loans that we've talked about, and she also had different lines of credit that were by and large all maxed out, not just the HELOC, but also she had some personal lines of credit associated with her checking accounts. Those were all maxed out, and she also had credit cards that had high balances.
On March the 5th, 2022, immediately after closing on the Midway Mansion, what was the amount of Kouri Richins' liabilities?
Right about $8 million.
So netting that out, on March the 5th, 2022, after closing on the Midway Mansions, what was Kouri Richins' net worth?
She was in the hole. She was negative 1.6 million.
As a forensic accountant, have you formed an opinion as to Kouri Richins' financial position on March the 5th, 2022, after closing on the Midway Mansion?
Yes.
What is your opinion?
As of the date that Eric Richins died, Kouri Richins was in financial distress, and her financial enterprise was collapsing, had been collapsing, but for a significant infusion of cash and capital would have continued to collapse. It was imploding. Her debts and liabilities far outweighed her assets, and even if she had sold everything she had, it would not have been enough to get back to zero.